Here's something a lot of ghosties like to talk about, including myself. How did our favorite ghosts become, well, ghosts? Well, this is a good chance for a 101 on the subject, and one that might help people who are watching the series for the first time. Here's what we know so far. Thorfinn is the longest deceased, while Trevor is the shortest. Between them come, in order, Sass, Isaac, Hetty, Alberta, Flower, and Pete. We can assume Crash died sometime in the 50s or 60s, so that would put him before Flower. And Elias says Hetty never came looking for him when he was stuck in the vault, so he can go between her and Isaac. The cholera ghosts are a bit difficult to pinpoint, as other than Nancy, we have little information about them. Looking online provides some interesting information, however. If one searches cholera outbreaks in New York, there were several throughout the 1800s, most notably 1832, 1849, and 1866 in New York City. With that in mind, perhaps we can place the cholera pit around the same time as Hetty, give or take a little time. One interesting fact is about the 1849 outbreak, as a source said that Irish immigrants were believed to be spreaders. Could this be why Hetty distrusts the Irish, among other reasons, due to her experience with the cholera pit in her house? Moving on, we have Cheryl, Sam's mom. We know that she passed away 6 years ago. If we go by the air date of the episode, that would be, of course, the mid-2010s, so she comes after pretty much everybody. So the timeline's done. Now the meaty part. How did they die? First, what we know for sure from the show information. Thor was struck by lightning. Isaac had dysentery. Alberta was poisoned. Flower was killed by a bear. Pete, the arrow. Cheryl, shrimp allergy. And the cholera pit is self-explanatory. Crash, we know, was involved in some mishap that cost him his head, but we don't know what. Sass died before giving his first story. We know when, but we don't know how. And based on the promo for the March 31st episode, we know Trevor's death came about because his heart exploded. Details to come. Leaving the only ghost to be shrouded in mystery, mostly, is Hetty. Now let's try to fill in some of the blanks. I may have mentioned this before, but I don't think Sass's death had to do with settlers or colonists. There's no sight of wounds on him, and also, when he makes jokes about people taking his land, it's not with a hint of bitterness or pain. Although we do know he uses humor and sarcasm a lot. Maybe he does it also to cope with past pains, even the pain of death. Come to think of it, most of the CBS ghost deaths are not ones that leave an external mark. Pete and Flower being the exceptions, of course, and obviously Crash and the cholera ghosts. Oddly, there's no burning or soot on Thor's body, unlike Mary on the BBC version. With Trevor, the easy answer would be drugs, sex, or a little of both. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of a twist that makes us see that Trevor wasn't who we think he was, and that he had a heart, no pun intended, about him once having a heart, but the heart being non-existent, because it exploded. Hetty's the one in the commercial who mentions his cause of death. As such, I wonder if it wasn't drugs or that he just didn't tell her or anyone. Because if Hetty knew that drugs were involved, would she continue to push cocaine's benefits if she knew how it affected people in the next century and on? Or at least she would be in disbelief over it. Then again, it could have been a totally different drug altogether. Maybe he'll mention it and it'll be another part of her character development. For as we all know, living with others has gradually changed Hetty. Living with the other ghosts, living with Jay and Sam. On the other hand, Hetty has also helped the other ghosts get in touch with themselves. But speaking of Hetty, like I said, she's shrouded in the most mystery of all. At one point, I thought her demise would not be unlike that of Fanny, her BBC counterpart, who was pushed out the window by her husband after she discovered his affairs. After all, Elias does seem to be the type, and there was a possible subtle hint at this as she winces when Sam falls down the stairs in her initial accident, as if the situation seemed familiar to her. But again, in the vault, Elias did say she never looked for him after he vanished, so he was the one to die first. So then, it was probably not by his hand. Maybe she had an accidental death falling over something. Maybe it was intentional after the emotional confusion and pressure of living with Elias and having him disappear. Again, it's easy to speculate that it had something to do with cocaine. But why would Hetty keep on championing its usage, no matter how obviously outdated it is? Here's a far-fetched idea that I've been thinking about. Maybe Hetty, too, had cholera. It would explain why she dislikes the Irish, like I said, and what aggravated her opinions about them. But then again, would she not be in the basement, too? But then again, it is her house. And not only that, but the cholera ghosts are scarred up and she isn't, that we know of. So that might shoot down that idea, even though there are some connections there possibly. So a lot of possibilities, a lot of history to go by, a lot of things to speculate about. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment down below. Talk to me on social. And obviously, this is an ongoing story that I'm sure will be very fascinating and very entertaining. Till next time.